Do you remember the previous story about Paul who headed to Rome? Paul met Jesus on his way to Damascus and decided to obey Jesus' command to spread the good news to the ends of the earth. And so Paul embarked on many missionary trips. But Paul ended up being tried in Jerusalem because of the Jews that hated him. Feeling threatened of his life, Paul asks that he gets tried by the Roman emperor in Rome. The journey to Rome wasn't easy. Put on a ship as a prisoner, Paul had to get on many boats and was also caught in a big storm in the winter. And when he finally did arrive on an island, he even got bit by a snake. But such difficulties never dissuaded Paul. In fact, there were opportunities through which he could spread the gospel. Paul talked about Jesus anywhere and everywhere, on the boat, on the island, whether or not he had the chance. Paul and his party waited for the winter to pass for 3 months on the island where they landed before getting back on the boat to Rome. There were several Jewish synagogues in Rome, and Paul gathered the rulers of those synagogues and explained to them the reason he came to Rome. He said, "I came to be tried in Rome not because I denounced our people, but because I talked about a hope for Israel, and people misunderstood me. I asked to be tried by the emperor to plead my innocence." Then the Jews said to Paul, "Then tell us, we heard through rumors only, but what are your thoughts on God and Jesus?" The rulers of the synagogues and many Jews set the time to visit the place where Paul was staying to hear his story. From morning to evening, Paul told them about God's kingdom and Jesus. Most of the people didn't believe what Paul said, and Paul says what Isaiah writes in the Old Testament. "Though seeing they do not see, though hearing they do not hear or understand." The book of Acts doesn't record the end of Paul's story, whether he was tried by the emperor or if he was martyred. Rather, it just tells us how Paul calmly talks about Jesus to those who come to his house. This is familiar to our everyday life. For 2 years since arriving in Rome, Paul welcomes everyone who comes to visit him. Although Paul was a prisoner waiting to be tried, he was always bold and unhindered about spreading the good news. The beginning of Acts tells us what happens to those who believe in Jesus when the Holy Spirit is with them. The Holy Spirit worked within Paul. Through Paul, we realize that we can also be like him and spread the good news. The Holy Spirit who was with Paul is also with us. And with the Holy Spirit working within us in our very life here and now, we also have the power to welcome many people and spread the good news about God's kingdom and Jesus.